So what was the first question, guys? In this question, 5 sentences are given. Of these, 4 sentences can be logically sequenced to make a coherent paragraph. One of the sentences does not belong to the paragraph. Type in the sentence number that doesn't fit into the paragraph. Cool? यानी कि odd one out करना है. सबसे पहले क्या है? What is surprising and paradigm shifting for me about the Tamil epics discussed above is that these are female journeys. Okay, so we come to the conclusion that it will not be opening the paragraph, right? First thing, chalo. And it is talking about some of the epics and that these are female journeys. So author is trying to talk about some of the female journeys that have been done in the form of, that has been transcribed in the form of epics, where the quest for justice and the transformation of the female heroines changes a society. ठीक है, cool है. Second क्या है मेरा? For too long we have been blinded by the popular version of the epics that have merged with television soaps to give us a spicy version of the history. Okay, so it is talking about some spicy version of the history, and it is trying to take into consideration one more aspect, and that aspect is of television. ठीक है. Third is, we tend to think of epics as male narratives, a story that relates the journey and transformation of a male hero, the epics of the Western canon, such as the Iliad and Odyssey, right? So now we come to, in the first sentence that we had read, we had seen that there is some epic that is trying to talk about the female journeys, right? And in 3, author is trying to talk about that relates the journey and transformation of a male. So itna karne ke baad what came to my mind is, it is trying to talk about some of the journey, some of the epics that have been created for the male versions of the society, some of the journeys that have been created for the female versions of the society. Clear hai itna sabko? ठीक है. And 2 is trying to talk about that some other aspect of the thing, that is that they have been, those journeys of the versions of the epics have merged with televisions to create some spicy versions of history. Like when Mahabharata was created on the television for the first time, and when you will see the Mahabharata for the third time when it was made, there is a vast difference in both of them. That's because they have added some spicy facts so that it can look relevant to the people, right? So it, author is trying to talk about in that sense in option 2. Now coming to 4, what is even more intriguing is that these epics are written by men. Okay, so now one more aspect is coming into consideration, that these epics are written by men. Okay, finally, for me, it was a revelation to come across epics such as Silapadikaram and Manimekalai. Okay, so the author is saying about that I came into, I followed 2 of the epics and given its name. It was revealed to him and he read, and it was like a fantabulous thing to him. A revelation to come across epics such as Silapadikaram XY, right? So this is it. अब मेरे को बताओ कंफ्यूजन तुम लोगों को कहाँ आ रहा है, किसको क्या कंफ्यूजन आया इसमें?
सर इसमें मुझे ये आ रहा है कि ये जो सेकंड पॉइंट है, फॉर टू लॉन्ग वी हैव बीन ब्लाइंडेड बाय द पॉपुलर वर्जन, मतलब सर ये स्टार्टिंग भी तो कर सकता है ना हमारे ऑर्डर की, सेकंड वाला पॉइंट.
ओके चलो ठीक है. आफ्टर 2 व्हाट यू आर ट्राइंग टू मेक द ऑर्डर? मेरे को 2 के बाद अपना ऑर्डर बताओ. जिसके जिसको डाउट्स है गाइस, पर्सनल डाउट्स है, इसलिए सारे लोग अपने डाउट्स बता देना मेरे को, एंड प्लीज ट्राई टू डू इट अ बिट फास्ट. ज्यादा टाइम बताओ. तुम 2 के बाद अपना बताओ, तेरा क्या दिमाग में आया अदिति?
सर मैंने इसमें ना जो ये वाला था, ये वाला पॉइंट 4th वाला, मैं इसको इससे कनेक्ट करके देख रही थी सेकंड से, लेकिन हाँ इसका कुछ सेंस नहीं बनता. ठीक है.
मेकिंग सम सेंस 2 and 4, इज इट मेकिंग सम सेंस?
नो सर नहीं.
हाँ
सर
नहीं,
मेरा
नहीं।
क्या डाउट था ना सर,
हाँ बोलो, बोर्ड का
सर
बोलो।
मेरा क्या डाउट था ना,
हाँ।
हाँ मेरा क्या डाउट था ना सर, जैसे 5, मेरे को हमेशा ज्यादातर गलतियां मैं करता हूँ ना, तो यही रहता है, अभी भी यही डाउट है।
हाँ।
जैसे 5 हम लास्ट में भी तो ले सकते हैं,
तुम
आपने
अब
सेंटेंस स्टार्ट
तुम
1 से कर दिया।
बिल्कुल ले सकते हैं। तुम अपना पेयर बताओ ना मेरे को, तुम अपना बताओ, व्हाट इज देयर इन योर माइंड।
सर सेम पेयर है, 5 लास्ट में, 1 से स्टार्ट कर दिया मैंने।
यू स्टार्टेड विथ 1, ठीक है। 1 के बाद कहा गया व्हाट इज सरप्राइजिंग एंड पैराडाइम शिफ्टिंग फॉर मी अबाउट द तमिल एपिक्स डिस्कस्ड अबव। कहां पे अबव ये बताओ मेरे को, तू कैसे इससे स्टार्ट कर रहा है? डिस्कस्ड अबव, व्हिच टू एपिक्स यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट?
ठीक है सर, वी टेंड टू थे, एक सेकंड सर बताता हूँ मैं।
हाँ
3, ठीक है सर, ठीक है
ठीक है।
सर।
हाँ बोलो।
हाँ तो एबव, ठीक है, तो एबव तो सर इन बिटवीन भी तो वो पैसेज हो सकता है ना, मैं तो पैसेज का पार्ट है, मान लीजिए
हो
एक
सकता है,
इतना सा
हो सकता है,
हाँ।
डेफिनेटली हो सकता है। बट व्हेन यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट टू ऑफ द एपिक्स, द नेम इज ऑलरेडी गिवन हियर, ठीक है। तो ऐसा भी तो हो सकता है ना कि ऑथर इज ट्राइंग टू टॉक अबाउट इट।
ठीक है, मतलब पहले मैं वो भी देख लूं कि कहीं मेंशन्ड है कि नहीं एबव, मतलब
Obviously, when you are trying to means odd one out, when you are doing the questions of odd one out, it might happen that first one is odd one out. It might happen na
सर
in the
ठीक
question.
है।
So जब तक देखो, the simple logic to solve odd one out questions is till the time you are not getting connected to any other part of the passage, consider that one.
ठीक है सर,
Don't ignore any of the options. I have not ignored any of the options till now. But what is happening here is, so when I read this, I thought about, okay, author is trying to talk about some epics. He has given the name of those epics. For me, it was a revelation to come across epics such as this and this. Author is trying to talk about it. Now what happens? Now, what is the opinion of the author? Right? What is the opinion of the author? The opinion of the author or the general opinion of the people is that the main epics, the most of the epics are created by men. As simple as that. So then author says that it was a revelation to come across epics such as this and this. And then he is giving his own statement that we tend to think of epics of male as male narratives, a story that relates the journey and transformation of a male hero. The epics of the Western canon, such as the Iliad and Odyssey. Right? Now he contrasts this argument of his. Now he contrasts the argument of his that the epics are based on male narratives, and now he is contrasting this opinion by saying that what is surprising and paradigm shifting for me about the Tamil epics discussed above. When he is saying discussed above, he is talking about these two epics. So what is contrasting and surprising for me is that these are female journeys. And lastly, he says, as these are female journeys, but it was quite surprising for me that these female journeys have been narrated by men.
ठीक है सर।
क्लियर है? किसी को और कोई डाउट्स था इसमें?
सर
हाँ बोलो।
once again explain.
Okay, so see, I am talking about that the author is talking about who is this? Balaji?
Yes sir.
You joined late, na?
Yes sir, I was late because I came now only.
Yeah, I don't have that much time here. I have a class from 9, but okay, not an issue. Balaji, what I was saying now, it says that for me it was a revelation to come across epics such as this and this. Author talks about the subject of the author is two of the epics that he is trying to talk about. He has given the example of these two epics, and then he says that he states his own intention, he states his own narratives, that for too long we have been with the mindset that most of the epics that are being generated are male narratives, a story that relates the journey and transformation of a male hero. But then he contrasts his statement by saying, he contradicts his own statement by saying that but these two epics that he had studied, okay, it is about the female journeys. And what was more surprising to him was that though these are female journeys, but they have been narrated by men. That's it.
Okay, sir.
Got it?
Got it.
वत्सल क्लियर है?
ये वाला तो सर क्लियर था.
ठीक, चल नेक्स्ट चलते. क्वेश्चन नंबर 2. ठीक है. Question number 2 talks about the following question consists of a set of 5 sentences. These sentences need to be arranged in a coherent manner to create a meaningful paragraph. Type in the correct order of the sentences in the space provided below. Okay, so it is a paragraph question. They would slip away from their herds and would lumber. Okay, so I got to know they would slip away. It won't be starting the sentence. Correct? Perfect. Now, some people used to believe that there was an elephant graveyard, a place that sick and old elephants would travel to die. Okay, so it might start our passage because it is talking about an elephant graveyard. The subject of ours is the elephant graveyard, right? Where the old elephants used to go and die. Third is explorers who went in search of the graveyard would follow dying elephants for weeks. Okay, so now it is talking about some graveyard, and the graveyard is not, if we are starting with 3, any graveyard is not yet discussed. So we can come between 2 and 3. 2 can open the sentence in a more apt way. Abhi tak, ठीक है? Legend said the spot was in Saudi Arabia. Which spot it is talking about? Obviously, if we will be starting with 4 can't be a starter because the spot that the author is trying to talk about, it's not discussed till now. Here is why the elephant graveyard is a myth. Yes, sentence dekhe I can say that this might be in the 99% of the cases. Thus, therefore, here is why. These all are conclusive sentences. So 5 will be coming at the end, because it's some sort of a conclusion. In most of the cases, I am not saying in this case, in most of the cases, this will be a conclusive sentence. Clear hai? So the best opener is to...
Sir,
हाँ.
ये here is why तो सर स्टार्टिंग में भी कभी कभी आता है. Here is why the elephant graveyard is में, तो उसके बाद बताइए क्यों है, मतलब राइटिंग में के वे ऑफ राइटिंग में कभी कभी सर जैसे
नहीं कभी भी तुम बोलोगे कि I have solved 10 to 15 questions of arithmetic TSD and I attempted all of them. I solved all of them correct. That's why if anyone will say that my TSD is weak, that's a myth.
ठीक है सर,
समझ में आया कैसे कनेक्ट कर रहे हैं?
सर ठीक है.
चल, so अब देखते हैं. So it might come to the last. So what is our starter? The best starter is 2. ये किसी को डाउट है? Right now 2 is talking about some people used to believe that there was an elephant graveyard, a place that sick and old elephants would travel to die. Now it is talking about sick elephants will be traveling at that place to die. Now which is going to become a better pair for it? So when one talks about they would slip away from their herds and would lumber across the dusty landscape like the Titans we read about in 7th grade in Greek mythology, it shows the process. They would slip away from their herds, talks about those elephants. That too is talking about sick and old elephants. Right? So 2-1 is our direct pair. ये समझ में आ रहा है?
सर 4 क्यों नहीं हो सकता 2 के साथ?
Okay, some people used to believe that there was an elephant graveyard, a place that sick and old elephants would travel to die. Legend said the spot was in Saudi Arabia, that it was in the source of a supernatural force, that it contained a book of spells to bring about world peace. बिल्कुल हो सकता है, ये भी हो सकता है, because it is talking about elephant graveyard, then it is talking about some spot. Right, that spot is being connected. उसके बाद तुम क्या लाओगे? 2-4 के बाद
Sir, 3.
ठीक है. Legend said that it contained a book of spells to bring about world peace. Explorers who went in search of the graveyard would follow dying elephants for weeks, only to realize they had been led in circles. Okay, ठीक है. 3 के बाद क्या लाओगे?
Sir, 3 के बाद 1 फिर 5.
3 के बाद 1 कैसे लाए? मेरे को ये बता दो. They would slip away. It's kind of I am giving you a means the final destination, what it is happening finally. I am showing you that when you are going in search of that, you are an explorer. When you are going in search of that, you will find the graveyard and you will see that all those elephants are lying in the circle. उसके बाद 1 कैसे लाओगे? They would slip away from their herd and would lumber across the dirty landscape like the titans we read about in 7th grade in Greek mythology. Is it making some connections to you?
No sir, pair नहीं बन रहा था, but मैंने 2 से start किया.
Cool. वही तो see, मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ? Whenever you are solving parajumbles, try to see for all the options ना. इतना ही आसान होता कि अगर if you could have easily connected all the sentences, all the dots, so obviously you should have done it very easily.
सर
हाँ बोलो.
सर जैसे हम LRDI में सर्कुलर के लिए डिफरेंट सेट्स बनाते हैं, वैसे ही आपका मतलब है कि डिफरेंट ऑप्शंस खुद बना के देखना है?
Obviously yes. And when see now if you will be doing like this, there will be how many combinations? There are 5. So 5 factorial will be the combination. So 120 combination. Will it be possible for you to judge 120 combinations? No.
नहीं सर.
So that's why best thing is try to formulate the pairs, right? Try to formulate the pairs, and at last what will happen in most of the cases, you will be formulating 2 pairs or 3 sentences in one pair triplet that will be making some coherent sentences, right? So when you have, let's say I am saying 2 1 and 4 3 5, right? Or 2 3 and 4 5 1 or anything. Okay, so now what happened? 2 3 is my pair, 4 5 1 is my triplet. Now we will see which is a better opener, and then we will justify if it is justifying 2 1 4 5 3 or 2 3 4 5 1 is justifying, or 4 5 1 2 3 is justifying, just because we have known the opening sentences. समझ में आया अदिति? वत्सल इसमें क्या डाउट था?
आगे सर.
इसमें नहीं था, इसमें भी नहीं था.
ओके ठीक है. जिसका डाउट्स था ये क्वेश्चन में, वो सीधा अब समझ गए. जो द वन हु वाज आस्किंग व्हाई आफ्टर 2 वी आर प्लेसिंग 1, व्हाई नॉट 4?
Yes sir.
So what will be our opener? 2 1, right? They would slip away from their herds and would lumber across the dirty landscape like the titans we read about in 7th grade. Okay, now it is telling about what it said first. There was an elephant graveyard, right, where elephants used to go and die. Okay, now they are saying that how they were dying, they would slip away from their herds and go to that place, right? Now it will talk about that that spot that it is talking about. First we have told you that there is a place, there is an elephant graveyard where old elephants go and die. How they die? They just slip themselves away from their groups. Now I'll say, where is that place situated? That place is situated in Saudi Arabia, right? So are you getting some connections in this now? क्लियर है गाइस? नहीं है तो मैं फिर से एक्सप्लेन करूंगा. ठीक है. So 2 1 4 is making us a triplet. Now as I said, here is why the elephant graveyard is a myth. I saw it will be in most of the cases it will be a conclusion. So third I'll be putting in between 2 1 4 3 5, and I'll see whether it's suiting our jumbled sentence or not. Unjumbled sentence, sorry. So whether it's suiting our unjumbled sentence or not. So some people used to believe that there was an elephant graveyard, a place that sick and old elephants would travel to die. They would slip away from their huts and would lumber across the dusty landscape like the Titans we read about in 7th grade in Greek mythology. Legend said the spot was in Saudi Arabia, that it was at the source of a supernatural force, that it contained a book of spells to bring about world peace. Explorers who went in search of the graveyard would follow dying elephant for weeks, only to realize they had been led in circles. Here is why the elephant graveyard is a myth. So it is connecting the dots properly, right? So I would have marked 2, 1, 4, 3, 5 and would have moved further. क्लियर है? सबको क्लियर है?
हाँ सर.
आगे बढ़े. तो देखने को पार्टिसिपेंट वत्सल, अदिति, अनुश्रुति, बालाजी, शुभेंदु, उत्तर, संजय. चल क्वेश्चन 3. इस क्वेश्चन में किसको किसको डाउट था?
सर ये मेरा गलत तो हुआ था, लेकिन जब आपका एक्सप्लेनेशन देखा तो समझ में आ गया कि मैंने कहाँ
It
पे
was
गलती
easy.
करी.
Actually, it was easy.
सर इसमें मेरा डाउट था, मुझे ये समझ ही नहीं आया था मतलब किस तरीके से, क्योंकि सारे ऑप्शंस ना लगभग सेम से ही लग रहे थे.
अब मेरा डाउट ये था कि 2 से ओपन क्यों नहीं हो सकता.
Computers can carry out a raft of tasks simultaneously, which is where the term comes from. Which term? Which term? Tell me.
For sir, similarly, multitasking is a straight term out of the IT industry.
Which one?
4 is given us.
Similarly,
Multitasking is a term. If we start.
Similarly, multitasking is a term straight out of the IT industry, right?
Yes,
so,
sir.
What you want to say? First, you are trying to say computers can carry out a raft of tasks simultaneously, which is where the term comes from. Similarly, yes. Multitasking is a term straight out of the IT industry.
Here he is referring to the term which is here multitasking. No, I thought
before introducing any term, how can you refer that term?
Okay.
Tell me that thing, na? Before introducing something, how can you refer to it?
No, we can't.
So it might be a pair, but obviously it won't be starting the sentence, right?
Yes.
Got it?
Yes, yes.
Now see, what it is saying, it's common to hear people saying ping me, and a majority of them are not aware that it's a network terminology. Says P.V. Bharadwaj, who has been engaged in the development of tech-based products, right? It might start the sentence, okay? Because it is saying about some statement that is being termed by PV, any person is talking about PV Bharadwaj, and what it is given here. It might start the passage. Computers can carry out a raft of tasks simultaneously, which is where the term comes from. After all, information technology has invaded almost all aspects of our life. Yeah. After all, the information technology has invaded After all, information technology has invaded almost all aspects of our lives, and it's only to be expected that the word we speak will partly bear its influence. One second, guys, I'm getting distracted. Sorry guys. So it's common to hear people say ping me. It might start the passage. Computers can carry out a raft of tasks simultaneously, which is where the term comes from. Which term? We don't know. It can't be our opener. After all, information technology has invaded almost all aspects of our lives, and it's only to be expected that the word we speak will partly bear its influence. Okay, so it is something that is given, but it won't be starting our passage just because of this term after all. Clear? Similarly, multitasking is a term straight out of the IT industry. Similarly, won't be starting the passage. Right? Now coming to 5. To the uninitiated ear, terms like Control-C, Control-V, and raise an incident may strike a jarring note and even sound unreal. But IT terms have invaded the non-IT world and keep rolling off the tongues of people more often than they realize. So it is also trying to introduce something like CTRL-C, CTRL-V. Right, guys? Some words that it is also trying to talk about some of the words like raise an incident, Control-C, Control-V, etc., etc. They might sound unreal, but IT terms have invaded the non-IT world and keep rolling off the tongue of people. So it is saying that there are some words which might seem unreal to you, like CTRL-C, CTRL-V, raise an incident, etc., etc. Right? They may seem unreal, but they have invaded the common lives. In simple terms, non-IT world and keep rolling off the tongue of people more often than they realize. It means the common world. So it may start our passage 1 or 5. Both of them might start our passage. Right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now coming to which is more apt to it. इसमें तेरा डाउट था वत्सल?
हाँ सर.
क्या डाउट है इसमें बता.
इसमें सर मतलब मेरा
क्या
डाउट
मार्क करा था? तूने क्या मार्क करा था?
मैंने सर स्टार्टिंग तो मेरी 5 से ही थी.
ठीक है.
एक मिनट सर बताता हूँ मैंने क्या दिया था.
और किसका किसका डाउट था इस क्वेश्चन में गाइस?
इसमें आर्यमान भी सर कुछ डाउट्स भेजा है मुझे.
हाँ.
कि सर से पूछ लेना.
मैं आपको रोज यही होता है ना, मुश्किल से 2 वर्ड.
हाँ बोलो जो बोल रहे थे.
सर इसमें मैंने तो क्या किया था कि 5 1 3 और फिर 4 सॉरी 5 4 3 1 2 करा था.
5 4 3 1 2.
हाँ लेकिन वो बाद में मुझे अपनी सारी मिस्टेक्स पकड़ में आ गई थी. तो इसमें सर आर्यमान ये पूछ रहा है
हाँ.
कि इसमें 1 3 4 2 5 क्यों नहीं हो सकता है.
1 3 4 2 5. Okay, one is
हाँ.
a starter, है ना?
जी हाँ सर.
One is a starter that we talked about. One might be the starter. Now
हाँ,
we
sir.
see it's common to hear people saying ping me, etc., etc., who has been engaged in the development of tech-based products, right? After all, information technology has invaded almost all aspects of our lives, and it's only to be expected that the word we speak will partly bear its influence, right? Okay, ठीक है. 1 3 is a apt pair. ठीक है कि it is saying about कि IT industry, IT words have invaded all of them, right? IT industry has has invaded almost all aspects of our lives, and it's only to be expected that the word we speak will partly bear its influence. Now tell me one thing. You are saying about has invaded almost all aspects of our lives, right? And 5 is talking about the same thing, but with some initial analogies. So which will be becoming first, 5 or 3?
5 आएगा सर.
Clear है?
हाँ.
3 से पहले 5 आएगा. So
हाँ,
that's why after one, I don't know which one will be opening. I'll be checking out all the connections or pairs that we can form, but right now we know one thing, that 3 will be coming after 5. It's clear now?
Yes sir.
ठीक है. Now coming to it. Now seeing all the, और किसी का कोई डाउट्स है तो वो बोल दो, मैं वो क्लियर कर देता हूँ first. Then I'll see कि how to connect the pairs, how to connect the dots. सुरेंद्र तेरा कुछ डाउट था ना?
हाँ सर इसी वाले में था. मैंने मार्क कर दिया था शायद 3 को बीच में मार्क कर दिया था कि इट्स ये पिंग मी के बाद ही लेता आया था.
तूने ऑप्शन क्या मार्क करा था?
सर 5 1 3 और फिर 4 और 2 किया था शायद. एक सेकंड चेक करके फाइनल बता दे रहा हूँ.
So 5 1 is making up an apt pair. किसी ने चार कुछ लिखा है क्या? Okay, cool. 5 के बाद 1 is an apt pair. ये सबको समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes sir.
ठीक है. To the uninitiated ear, terms like CTRL-C, CTRL-V, and raise an incident may strike a jarring note and even sound unreal. But IT terms have invaded the non-IT world and keep rolling off the tongues of people more often than they realize. when it says that keep rolling off the tongues of people more often than they realize, then it's saying, then it's giving one more example. It's common to hear people saying ping me, and a majority of them are not aware that it's a network terminology. Network terminology is trying to talk about the IT terms. Got it? So who has been engaged in the development of tech based product? So 5.1 is a connection. Ye clear hai? Right?
हाँ sir.
Now what is happening here? After that, I gave one example, right? When I say कि my LRDI is fantastic, then I'll say why I'm saying that my LRDI is fantastic, because my linear and circular arrangement topics are more than cool. I solve all of them within minutes, and all the questions I mark becomes correct. Now what I'll say, along with that, there are some of the questions from network terminologies that looks and seems difficult to most of the people, but I mark them in minutes and I still mark them correct. So what I am doing, first of all, what I did, I introduced something like my something is good. Then I gave one example, and to support my first example, I gave another example, right? So similarly, after one, what the author is doing, it is giving one more example of it. Similarly, multitasking is a term straight out of the IT industry. Clear है guys? किसी को कोई doubt?
नहीं sir.
ठीक है? Now it is talking about all these terms that we have discussed here, like ping me or CTRLC, CTRLV, raise an incident, multitasking. Now this too is referring to those terms when it mentions which is where the term comes from. Computers can carry out a raft of tasks simultaneously, which is where the term comes from. Which term it is talking about? All these terms that we have discussed earlier. Clear hai? Guys, clear hai? Now it is saying, after all, IT has invaded almost all aspects of our lives, and it's only to be expected that the word we speak will partly bear its influence. Now it is some sort of a conclusive sentence. First I did what? I said that there are many terminologies that we are using today. Those are, then I gave some of the examples, CTRL-C, CTRL-V, then I gave another example, ping me. Then I said similarly, multitasking is the thing. Then I said these terms comes from the IT background. And then what I am doing, I am just concluding my all these statements that I have already made. That obviously whatever we speak today, after all, whatever we speak today, there might be some of the influence of IT terminologies. Clear है? Right guys? Did you get कि why 5 1 4 2 3? किसी को और कोई भी सेंटेंस लगता है कि this makes a better connection, मेरे को बता दो, मैं बता दूंगा वो क्यों गलत है. क्लियर? आगे बढ़े गाइस, टाइम नहीं है.
हाँ सर, हाँ सर.
ठीक है. इस
5 1 4 2 3 राइट. 5 1 4 2 3.
5 1 4 2 3 का ऐप आंसर. ओके
सर एक सेकंड छोटा सा ही है. एक सेकंड पीछे वाला सर. 5 1 पीछे वाला.
हाँ बोलो ना. हाँ
5 के बाद सिमिलरिटी 4 डायरेक्टली क्यों नहीं आया सर?
मैं तो बोल रहा हूँ 4 के बाद क्या ला रहे?
सिमिलरिटी 4 के बाद 1 ले आइए सर.
अच्छा
डायरेक्टली मतलब कनेक्ट तो कर ही रहा है ना सर. आप सिमिलरिटी मल्टीटास्क स्ट्रेट आउट इट्स कॉमन टू हियर पीपल पिंग है. इसके बाद सर 2 3 मतलब वही सर. मतलब शायद मैंने ये मार्क किया था, लिखा नहीं था.
तुमने क्या मार्क करा है? 5 4 1 2 3.
हाँ
5 4 1 2 3. Okay, you have see just 4 and 1, right? See, मैं तुमको बताता हूँ क्यों नहीं होगा. क्योंकि यहाँ see, just one thing, just see one thing. To the uninitiated ears, terms like these and these may strike a jarring note and even sound unreal. But IT terms have invaded the non-IT world, right? It is saying about the invasion, okay, that the IT terms have made. Then it is talking about some examples. Similarly, multitasking is a term straight out of the IT industry, right? Then if you are saying it's common to hear people saying ping me and a majority of them are not aware that it's a network terminology, says PV Bharadwaj, who has been engaged in the development of tech-based products. Right? So what right now here, what is the conscience behind marking 5 and 1 is that he is trying to support the statement that if you are using some of the words, you might be, what it says that similarly multitasking is a straight out of the IT industry. That means author is supporting that statement. Whereas one says that whenever you are using the terms, whenever you are using any of the terms, it might not be true that you will be aware, but still you will be using that term. This is a confirmation thing. 4 is giving a confirmation thing. But 1 is giving what is here. Here it is said that IT terms, it might sound unreal, but IT terms had invaded the non-IT world and keep rolling of the tongue of the people more often than they realize. When it is said that more often than they realize, then one is giving a apt conclusion that you are using, one is giving that example that even if you don't realize that ping me is something that relates to an IT environment, you are using it. समझ में आया?
Got it, sir. Clear है, clear है.
ठीक है.
Clear है.
So that's why 5 and
Clear.
1 are apt from this scenario. ठीक है? आगे बढ़े. Just because of people more often than they realize, इसके बाद 1 आएगा, क्योंकि यहाँ पे यही बोल रहा है कि you are not aware that it's a network terminology, although you are using that. ठीक है? समझ गया? आगे बढ़ते हैं. इसमें किसको डाउट था?
सर समझ गया.
नहीं इसमें नहीं था सर.
किसी को डाउट है इस क्वेश्चन में? चलो आगे बढ़ जाए. किसी को डाउट है तो पूछ लो यार, मैं बता दूंगा. ठीक है, किसी को डाउट नहीं है. नेक्स्ट, दिस वन, व्हाट इट इज सेइंग अगेन द सेम थिंग. The following question consists of a set of 5 sentences. These sentences need to be arranged in a coherent manner. हाँ बोलो.
बाकी कल कर ले सर, अगर अभी आपकी क्लास है.
हाँ, ये दोनों, मैं इन दोनों का ये लिख दूं क्या, प्रॉपर एक्सप्लेनेशन लिख दूं क्या वहां पे? विल दैट बी कूल?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
वो मैं लिख दूंगा. ठीक है?
ठीक है.
अभी ये सारा चारों समझ में आ गया ना गाइस?
हाँ
अब क्लियर है कैसे आई एम कनेक्टिंग द डॉट्स?
हाँ सर.
ठीक है, ट्राई टू इम्प्लीमेंट इट, है ना? शायद आंसर देखो, अभी मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा कि यू विल बी अ प्रो एंड यू विल बी आंसरिंग ऑल आंसर्स करेक्ट, बट हाँ, धीरे धीरे व्हेन यू विल रियलाइज हाउ आई एम कनेक्टिंग द डॉट्स, इट विल बी इजी फॉर यू गाइस. ठीक है? चलो
ठीक है सर.
ठीक है.
ठीक.
थैंक्स फॉर ज्वाइनिंग इन गाइस. बाय बाय, रखता हूँ.